Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and dear friends. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to the plenary session. And I'm really happy that many of you found the way back from the 1 hectare installation. I have to say I have been a little bit worried seeing 300 people marching towards the 1 hectare installation and not really having enough control over it that most of you have come back. So especially thanks to those who participated in the inauguration of the 1 hectare session that you really came back. It's a pleasure to have you here again. This is the closing plenary of the 3rd Global Soil Week. But if we are honest, the Global Soil Week will continue also the next days, because we have learned, it's the 2nd Global Soil Week, that these working groups have created a lot of momentum so that people have requested us to open this conference venue again on Thursday, and we already have 8 work streams having registered for the continuation of the working groups. So that's for me a very, very good signal that people at the end do not say, thanks God, it's over and we can leave, but they say, we had a lot of interesting discussions, and by the way, I would like to link my work with something I've heard in another group, and therefore, if you are interested in continuing outside, you can register without any bureaucracy to continue tomorrow, and I've seen that we already have 8 sessions which will take place tomorrow at the same venue. I think that's a very, very good signal. I would like to start thanking our partners for the 3rd Global Soil Week. You know, when Klaus Töpfer decided in 2002 that we should have a Global Soil Week, it was quite an experiment. Will it work to bring together a diverse group of people? Will it work out to bring them together and not only to talk about soil science, but also to involve land tenure people, people with a background in law, NGOs, policymakers, a very mixed group of people. And after the 3rd Global Soil Week, we can say, yes, the concept is working, and we are very, very happy. But what has made this concept also work was the support we have received from key partners. They trusted us that it will be possible to organize such a conference, not only once, but also ongoing. And for this Global Soil Week, we have the European Commission as a partner, the Ministry for Development Cooperation, GIZ, but also UNCCD, UNEP, FAO, and for the first time, the International Union of Soil Sciences. The Ministry for Agriculture has contributed to it, and also the Special Agency for Renewable Resources, and of course, the core funders of our institute, the Ministry for Research. So we have also a very, very broad partnership in support for this. And this, again, for me, is a very clear signal that what we try to achieve to bring very diverse people together is really working. From my perspective, diversity is the brand of the Global Soil Week. We bring together scientists from different disciplines. We bring NGOs. We bring policymakers, private sector, journalists, and people who have a lot to contribute. And we have a lot of people here presenting case studies from the ground. Over the last 3 days, we have received more than 50 case studies from all over the world. And for me, this is also, again, a proof of concept of the whole institute. This Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies was founded to do work in a transdisciplinary way. And a lot of people say, what is this transdisciplinary? This means bringing together all sources of scientific and non-scientific knowledge. And the Global Soil Week is the proof of the concept, as a platform, but also as an ongoing process which will continue until we organize the next Global Soil Week. So you have participated, and many of you have participated also in the first Global Soil Week, in an experiment. We all survived it, and we made the proof of the concept. And therefore, I would really like to thank all of you that you have participated, that you have contributed, and we are counting on you when we are continuing. I would like to start with thanking the Henrik Waldstorff Quartet for having brought you back into the room, and I know that they also will make some music at the end of this session. Thanks a lot. And we are talking about the way forward today. And I'm really happy that we have been successful inviting the Parliamentarian State Secretary of the Ministry for Development Cooperation, Mr. Thomas Silberhorn, for providing an input to the question, what is the way forward? You all know that Germany is currently the presidency of the G7, and that Germany is launching important initiatives at the G7, and that the Ministry for Development Cooperation tries to link sustainability and development. And therefore, we are really happy that you are here, and I would like to invite you to take the floor and to address this audience here. Please, some applause for the Parliamentarian State Secretary of the Ministry for Development Cooperation.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Professor Töpfer, Your Excellency, Mrs. Kariuki, I'm very pleased to join this year's Global Soil Week here, but unfortunately I have to apologize my minister. He has to be present at an actual debate in Parliament due to the refugee disaster in the Mediterranean Sea, which is actually discussed. But he mandated me to extend his warm regards to all of you as participants in this meeting, and especially to you, Mr. Töpfer. This afternoon, if I'm informed correctly, the 1 hectare exhibition was opened, and just 1.5 hours ago, this has been opened, and this would mean in hectares that another 5 hectares of soil only in Germany have been sealed since then. Global figures are even far more alarming. Every year, land degradation affects some 6 million hectares worldwide. In total, 24 billion tons of fertile soil is lost every year. That is more than 3 tons for every person on Earth. This is happening as a result of surface sealing, soil compaction, contamination, salinity, erosion, and sheer overexploitation. At the same time, we all know that food production needs to increase in order to ensure food and nutrition security for a growing world population. In the period up to 2050, it needs to increase by at least 60%. How will we manage to achieve that, seeing that in many parts of Africa alone, yields are at risk of declining by 1/3 over the next 15 years due to climate change? Seeing that harvests fail because there is no reliable rainy season anymore, and then when the rain does come, it is so heavy that it not only washes away the harvest, bad enough in itself, but actually the very soil. So how will we manage to increase food production? You are the experts, and you know that 1 hour of heavy rain can wash away soil that took thousands of years to form. So it is vital that we look at the ground we are standing on, quite literally, and do everything we can to protect humanity's most important means of production or save it where that is still possible. For a long time, this problem was completely neglected. So I'm very pleased that you, Professor Töpfer, have organized this conference here in Berlin. And I'm even more grateful that together with IASS and other partners, you have been working so persistently to make us in Germany and worldwide realize that soil is not a resource that can be renewed ad infinitum. Global Soil Week is being held for the 3rd time now, drawing 550 participants from 78 countries, experts, policymakers, and practitioners. It has become a successful platform that provides important impetus to urgently needed change. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Töpfer, the BMZ, the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, has certainly understood the message. Germany is doing a lot to make sure that humankind will not lose the very ground from under their feet. Our main focus is on countries that are particularly affected by land erosion. Our special initiative, One World, No Hunger, is focusing in the first step on Benin, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, India, and Kenya. We are using innovative approaches to help these countries to use resources sparingly, to protect soils, and to restore soil fertility so that lost land can be farmed again. Such innovations can be very simple. For instance, in Kenya, we support farmers in liming their land. This can help increase yields by up to 30%. And we also show farmers how to use soil analysis to determine the right amount of fertilizer. This can help smallholders reduce costs and simultaneously increase production. In India, to give another example, we have been supporting the government, for example, in improving its soil health cards. Earlier in our bilateral cooperation with India, we provided advice to people in the state of Maharashtra on how to better use their natural resources. They built retention dams and terraces, planted grass, trees, and hedges to protect the topsoil, and they started to grow a greater variety of crops. All these things together have made the land more fertile again. The result is very clear and encouraging. Cereal yields have increased fourfold. There are 4 times as many jobs, a thicker vegetation cover, clean drinking water for all, and not least, empowered women who are generating their own incomes. In Ethiopia, where I just come from this weekend, we are supporting integrated soil fertility methods, for instance, improved crop rotation and the use of compost. Agroforestry farming, for example, is helping to achieve several things at once: increased carbon storage in land and biomass, protection of land against erosion, and increase of tree and field crop yields. We want to make use of these synergies between various agricultural techniques, but the legal environment is also important for encouraging investment in land. In Burkina Faso, we are providing advice to our partners on the implementation of land reform. When farmers know that the land they are using cannot be taken away from them, they are willing to invest in preserving its fertility. In particular, we are supporting women who often have no land rights. As we all know, gender equality is one of the most effective innovations against hunger. In all these efforts, we are working closely with academia and international agricultural research centers, in particularly with IASS. Through their accompanying research, they are supporting our global program in areas where we pursue joint activities with our partner institutions. Germany's vision is a world without hunger is possible. Helping to eradicate hunger and malnutrition worldwide by 2030, and helping to protect natural resources in rural areas and to make sure that they are used sustainably. These are the 2 major goals of the BMZ special initiative, One World, No Hunger, which we are pursuing with massive funding, that is 1.4 billion euros this year alone. Germany will use its G7 presidency to encourage other partners to join the effort, because a world without hunger is not some distant dream. It would be possible today. This means that we have an obligation to make this vision come true. Just like in many other areas, it is becoming more and more evident in this field that all poverty reduction efforts will be in vain if development is achieved at the expense of the environment. So in the long term, wise soil protection policies are crucial to the survival of humankind. Intact soil is not only a prerequisite for food security. Without intact soil, we also will lose the battle against climate change. As you all know, carbon is not only stored in trees, but also in land. After the world's oceans, soil is the largest carbon sink of our planet. Almost 1/4 of all greenhouse gas emissions are caused by agriculture, forestry, and land use. In other words, agriculture is a major contributor to global warming. To date, 55 billion metric tons of carbon have been released into the atmosphere just as a result of land degradation. And the advance of climate change and the increasing loss of soil fertility are increasingly pushing agricultural activity to new areas, with more and more forests being cut down. So it's a vicious cycle, and we have to break this vicious cycle. It's very appropriate that the tremendous importance of soil protection is reflected in the 17 new Sustainable Development Goals to be adopted by the United Nations this fall. Goal 15 reads, I quote, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, and halt and reverse land degradation. Germany believes that negotiations on the set of Sustainable Development Goals should not be reopened, which also means that we want to firmly establish soil protection as part of the future agenda of sustainable development. The Sustainable Development Goals are calling particularly on us in the industrialized countries to do our part. And this has to be understood by everybody, that this is not an issue of development politicians alone. This is perfectly appropriate because our countries are not only part of the solution, but also part of the problem. 60% of the land area we Europeans use for our consumption is outside Europe. In other words, we are using more than we have. We are virtual soil importers. The production of agricultural goods and consumer goods consumed in Germany requires almost 80 million hectares of land, more than twice our own land area. Professor Töpfer pointed out during this conference that this can have massive impacts on other people. The land footprint we are leaving in the places where things are being produced for us often means that this land is no longer available for anyone else. People in developing countries are also losing their livelihoods through land grabbing and resettlements. Professor Töpfer, your institute published a soil atlas where we can read that each EU citizen uses an average of 1.3 hectares of land a year, more than the 1 hectare we can see over at Gleisdreieck Park, and 6 times more than, for example, a Bangladeshi. In the long term, equitable and sustainable development will only be possible on land and soils that are used equitably and sustainably. We all have to do our share, experts and policymakers, business people, and each and every one of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may know the wise words from ancient Sanskrit scripture written 3,500 years ago. Upon this handful of soil, our survival depends. Husband it, and it will grow our food, our fuel, and our shelter, and surround us with beauty. Abuse it, and the soil will collapse and die, taking humanity with it. We do not want to let that happen, and we must not let that happen. That's why we are here today, and that's why we will fight together for the ground we are standing on. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Vielen Dank. Können Sie noch ein bisschen hier bleiben? Thank you very much, State Secretary Silberhorn, for addressing this audience and for also presenting some of the ideas you as presidency of the G7 would like to kickstart. And I think we all can only support you. Eradication of hunger is possible quite soon. We should not wait any longer. Thank you so much. I would now like to ask our second keynote speaker to come to the podium. And we are really happy that we have the Principal Secretary for Agriculture from the Ministry for Agriculture, Livestock and Fishery from Kenya here with us, the Permanent Secretary Sicily, Kanini, Kariuki. And it was very important for us to hear at this conference the voice of a developed country and the voice of a developing country, because the way forward means increased and innovative collaboration. And therefore, we are really looking forward to your keynote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you, the Secretary of State, Mr. Silverhorn, Secretary of State, Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, Professor Töpfer, the Executive Director of the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies here in Germany, other excellencies present here today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me to take this opportunity first and foremost to express my gratitude to the organizers of this forum and for extending an invitation to Kenya's Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, and Fisheries to share our story, but also to participate and learn from the participants. This forum coming within the year 2015, which has been declared Year of the Soil, is timely and indeed very important, instructive in terms of how we begin to view issues of mitigating against land degradation. The forum gives us an important opportunity to share and discuss the status of agriculture in our countries, continent, and the world at large, but more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to identify what requires to be done by each one of us once we get back to our various countries. The theme of the forum, Soil, the Substance of Transformation, resonates well with the transformation agenda that Kenya and indeed other African countries currently are pursuing in their quest to realize improved agricultural productivity and ultimately improved livelihoods of our people. As envisaged in the Malabo Declaration that was signed by the heads of states of African states with the aim of accelerated agriculture growth and transformation for shared prosperity and improved livelihoods, this forum is instructive. It signifies there is been increasing renewed interest in agriculture sector by governments, particularly in the sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya included. This interest has in part been attributed to the need to address the challenges of increasing food insecurity due to a number of factors. If I isolate a few, I'd want to focus on the reduced production and productivity across the African countries, increasing soil degradation, the adverse declining soil fertility, a high cost of inputs, poor access to credit, low absorption of modern technologies, weak policy, legal, and institutional frameworks, just to share a few. It is, therefore, at this point, compelling that there is need for us to actively engage in implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically with the drive of attaining food security. It should be emphasized that land degradation can be a key impediment in realizing this vision, hence the need to intervene through appropriate sustainable land management practices. It is recognized and appreciated that the government of the Federal Republic of Germany, through the GIZ, has continued to be a key development partner to the government of Kenya and indeed other African governments in the area of agriculture research and development. Indeed, further partnerships and programs structured around the discussions you've had in the last 2 days, which aim at increasing agricultural productivity and improvement of livelihoods of the rural poor, would be worthwhile. I understand it is on this basis, as Secretary, you have rightly put, that the government of the Federal Republic of Germany, through the Minister for the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, Dr. Müller, launched the laudable initiative, One World, No Hunger. Indeed, Kenya is privileged to be one of the first countries to participate in this laudable initiative, which has 3 components for us in Kenya. One is a green innovation centers. The other one is a soil conservation and rehabilitation programs in Western Kenya, region of Kenya. And number 3, food and nutrition security interventions, all aligned with the aim of addressing the concerns and challenges that I have mentioned and those that which have occupied you in the last 3 days. Ladies and gentlemen, agriculture remains the mainstay of most African economies and the main driver of any meaningful development activity in the immediate future. The sector engages over 40% of the total population in the case of Kenya, and over 70% of the rural population is directly dependent on agriculture. The sector's importance, in as far as it contributes 18% of formal employment, cannot be overemphasized. The sector also provides opportunities to the vulnerable groups of the population, including women and the youth. Agriculture remains predominantly smallholder, rain-fed, poorly mechanized, a situation that the government of Kenya is seeking to address by recognizing the role of smallholder farmers in the transformation of agriculture. Besides, and in the broader context, Kenya, like other African countries, have embraced the CADIP agenda, the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, which places emphasis on, among other things, the need for sustainable land and water management as a driver for increased production and productivity. I take note that discussions held in the last 3 days on cost-effective actions towards conserving and sustaining continuity will have direct bearing on agricultural production and productivity. As a country, we have endeavored to focus our programs and interventions that will indeed make agriculture transformation a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to note that African countries last June recommitted to agriculture development agenda through the Malabo Declaration of June 2014 on accelerated agriculture growth and transformation for shared prosperity and improved livelihoods. However, soil fertility decline, soil erosion, and land degradation, which have affected most of Kenya's arable land, are threatening to undermine the stability and sustainability of the agriculture sector and must urgently and decisively be addressed. Data collected in Kenya in the last 20 years indicate that there is serious increase and severity of land degradation and land waste in my country. This is true of other African countries, whereby population pressure has resulted in unsustainable use of natural resources, which has in turn led to poor agriculture productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, this has in turn caused more exposure to food insecurity with practices such as cultivation on slopes, overgrazing, farming on marginal land, and so on. Since the 30s and 40s, matters of soil fertility decline were identified in Kenya as a major environmental problem then, and the first soil and water conservation techniques were introduced in the country. The impact of these activities can still be seen today, although the methods used to bring about adoption of soil conservation were sometimes felt to be repressive, and so the impact was not as effective as ought to have been. In the 70s, the Kenya government initiated the National Soil and Water Conservation Campaign through what was called the National Soil Conservation Project to stem increasing soil erosion and also conserve water. These campaigns were led from the top leadership in the country, and therefore they were largely successful. Subsequent programs such as what we have now, the Fertilizer Extension Project, the Fertilizer Use Research Program, and later an active program known as the National Accelerated Agriculture Input Program, were designed to provide the most appropriate fertilizer use recommendations according to the agroecological zones. These notable efforts have not effectively reduced or stopped soil degradation at a wide scale and scope as was anticipated, largely because there were standalone programs, they were also top-down in terms of approach. Agriculture productivity has been declining in spite of efforts that I have shared with you. Consequently, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently through a strong collaborative linkages among researchers, extension workers, farmers, and other key players in the agriculture sector, addressing the persistent challenges through programs such as one Kenya Agriculture Program on Sustainable Land Management, CAPSLIM in short, A second program, the Kenya Adaptation to Climate Change in Arid and Semi-Arid Lands, KACAL in short, among others. The objective, ladies and gentlemen, is to actively engage a plurality of actors within the sector to achieve a holistic solution to challenges facing agricultural productivity. This, going forward, necessitates continuous engagement with all relevant actors to pursue modern and practical methodologies that will enhance soil conservation and fertility. This will also enable the actors to fully play their roles in efforts towards increased agricultural productivity. It is also hoped that through this approach, farmers will have an opportunity to work closely with researchers and other knowledge-based institutions and agricultural extension agents to realize the set goals. My ministry is also promoting enterprise diversification and mixed farming. Climate-smart methodologies such as farm, forestry, conservation, agriculture, and organic farming, which enhance soil fertility and sustainable agricultural productivity, will continue to be enhanced. The government continues to work with donors and development partners in this effort to stem out soil erosion and land degradation. Ladies and gentlemen, although agriculture has faced serious challenges, such as those I have just shared with you, hope is not lost as we continue to pursue meaningful partnerships and dynamic collaborations that will ensure inclusive growth and sustainable development. There is need, however, for strong commitment that will make transformation a reality in our countries through increased public and private investment in the agriculture sector, and in particular in programs that address soil health and fertility for increased production and productivity. Equally important, and upon interrogating why, despite efforts that I've shared with you, that we haven't quite attained a threshold that would make us go beyond the page, it is my considered opinion that the following take-homes perhaps would help us. One, I think there's need for change in the planning approaches from the hitherto top-down approach to a more inclusive, more participatory approaches that incorporate the communities that are impacted. Two, involvement of knowledge-based institutions in informing policies and interventions that are going to guide our actions are imperative. Number three, need for holistic and collaborative mechanisms anchored on sound policies, complete with accountability framework, become instructive. And number four, involvement of top political leadership as champions become important. These are perhaps a few of those I would list as priority in the case for Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the discussion or the page for us begins to turn here in terms of engaging and recognizing the multiplicity of the actors that have engaged with this discussion in the last 3 days. And therefore, for me, as I go back home to Kenya, I'll be looking forward to speed up and scale up implementation of the interventions that have been identified by yourselves in the last few days. I wish to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. I would like to thank the Principal Secretary in the Ministry for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries from Kenya for sharing the challenges you are facing, but also talking about the achievements and also linking your work program with what we have discussed here at the conference and with the ongoing initiative of the Minister for Development Cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the last figures of people having registered for this conference are now above 600 from 80 countries. And we had several sessions, informal sessions, dialogue sessions, workshop, lunch events. I've seen a lot of people having breakfast together, doing things and organizing new sessions. And the question is, how can we put all these things together? Because we don't want to continue in the business as usual, but speed it up. So what can we do in order to bring all the work you have done together, to identify what is the change needed and what are the real opportunities we are facing in the year 2015, where we have the SDGs, the post-2015 development agenda, and COP21, the COP of the Climate Change Convention in Paris. The steering committee of this Global Soil Week has met yesterday, and we have received a lot of feedback from rapporteurs from the different sessions. And Klaus Töpfer is now going to present the conclusions of the work you have done so far in the different sessions, and he's providing an outlook, what is the way forward. And I'm really happy to welcome Klaus Töpfer here on stage. He's the Executive Director of the Institute of Advanced Sustainability Studies and the Spiritus Rector of this Global Soil Week.
Topics around the head and what have you, therefore I'm very old-fashioned and love such a microphone. Once more, welcome to this final session. It's always a disaster when there is some impossible things to do, they ask me to do it. It is true. 600 people working with us for 3 days, 80 countries. I'm very happy that we could round it up from 78 to 80. So thanks to two arriving later, knowing that we had more than 300 case studies to discuss. And if you make this an arithmetic solution, these are 2 participants for 1 case study. And that proves that I was correct in expecting that's not a single one participating here without contributing personally in a case study in other topics. And I believe you can go a long way around the world before you have such a conference once more, where this activity is helpful to use and where we can learn vice versa. So it was not our intention to make learning lessons, but also to listen very carefully and to ask what we have to do also in the future. Therefore, in the very beginning of my short summary, because they gave me 10 minutes to do this, the very beginning I want to invite you already to consider now what was missing in this 3rd Global Soil Week. What should be much more in the center of those organizing the next one? And can we stay also in contact in the in-between time? I believe it must be more and more a dialogue organization and event from the very beginning. Not only as important it is in the conference itself, but also in the preparation, that each and everybody could have a feeling that those questions he has at home, in his work as a scientist, as a farmer, as an NGO, as a member of a ministry, Your Excellency, can expect that we have an answer to this. And of course, I'm extremely happy about the fact that this was a real global meeting. These 80 countries must come from around the world, otherwise you cannot come to 80. But of course, Your Excellency, my Deputy Minister for Agriculture from Kenya, so I can mention that is my ministry as well, simply because Mr. Silberhorn had already to go. Thank you very much for staying. It's very good. That's not to criticize him. God, no. But it is good to have one of your home country with you as well. And it was a wonderful 8 years I could live in Nairobi in Kenya. So that we can make this global access to problems also the basis for our activity. And I believe you should consider to make it even more concrete. Again, we are, I believe, also better and better to go beyond analysis. Analysis is very, very necessary. We need it urgently, and we need it from all ways of life. Yes, starting of course, with soil science. And I'm again and again underline that we have to do even more in this field. But we have also to know that the knowledge linked with the people on the ground is extremely important. I believe if we come to the conclusion that only science will be enough, it will be very difficult to have this contact on the ground as well. Vice versa, if you believe you can only do it with the people on the ground, you will make a problem as well, because we are going in a world with new needs. Therefore, to come to more concrete topics, of course, we have some experience and some results already now, after the third Global Soil Week. We started in a way that it was a lot of concern who around the world cares for soils. Our friend from Bangladesh, Islam, I hope he is still here. Yeah, he is there, as polite as ever in the background. But I will never forget when he mentioned soil doesn't have a voice. I think that we tried a little bit more to give soil a voice. Of course, the one or the other will come back and say, why are they spending money to cover a hectare of land and bringing numbers of people to see it and to even offer a glass of champagne and something to eat? Can we not use the money better? Friends and colleagues, if I go a little bit around and ask in my country what is one of the most important, economically most important sector in the society, in the economy, you have the advertisement industry. You have the industry informing and, let me say, don't want to say manipulating the broader public. We need pictures. We need it if you want to increase this voice of soils. And therefore, it is so wonderful. It is, by the way, a footnote necessary to underline what Alexander forgot to mention. Yes, we had all those workshops and what have you, but I learned that yesterday evening it was even a dancing lesson. So soil and dancing should be something on the agenda in the future as well. You know, we are not in a, let me say, on a white paper starting. We are in this world. And this world comes directly back to our conference, the minister and the parliament, to discuss the disaster happening in the Mediterranean. And a lot of discussion goes again and again as a question, what can we do to make better saving activities, to bring those refugees more and more and better and give them a home at Europe? We have also to invest much more in the question, where are the reasons that those people has to go out of their home? Who was ever a refugee knows nobody is simply going. Refugees is always an indicator for missing of freedom. If you don't have the freedom of your identity, of religious belief, and if you don't have the freedom to make your family a living in the future, you are going out. And therefore it is so important that we underline this Soil Week again. It is one main instrument to avoid those pictures in the Mediterranean. If we can give all our friends around the world a clear signal, we are in the same boat. And a world with 9 billion people, and we are going to 9 billion people, urgently need development, need economic development. By the way, in Rio 1992, and I had the chance to be there, the head of the German delegation, in the Rio Principles, we mentioned the right to development for everybody. Today we would say the right for sustainable development, because we learn if we are destroying the basis for development, we make it impossible for 9 billion people to live. And therefore is soil really, as we mentioned in the title, the substance of transformation. And we come to the conclusion transformation is needed after a long, intensive discussion. The analysis is absolutely clear. Nobody can question it. And transformation is, and that is necessary to underline as well, is possible, it is feasible in a way that the voices of the poorest of the poor can be integrated in this development process. I learned a lot in these discussions. Yes, we have good chances for rehabilitation, to take one, what we underlined. And we know rehabilitation is always linked with investment, is always linked with a lot of activities. And we must avoid that rehabilitation is misused to give the poor people in the field not any longer the chance to be able to use their properties. How can we handle this? I was this morning in this meeting of the financing group, where this was underlined again and again. I quote one saying that in the last year of the family farming, they singled out that the most important investment comes from the small farmers themselves. And therefore, we have to do our utmost not to misuse this, but to make it an instrument to overcome poverty and to try to realize this noble target of a world without hunger. And this is really a challenge, knowing that more than 1.8 million people will join this family of human beings on this globe in the future. We see that awareness raising is not only public relation, awareness raising is bringing the need for solution to the broader audience. We also learned that those case studies are not an end in itself. And we want to do a lot to make these 300 plus now not only filed, but also try to come to something like, let me say, a checklist. What do we expect from case studies? What kind of case studies are available? I know there are lots of NGOs and others doing this already, so I invite you to give us your backing, your ideas, but we should do whatever is possible not to make it only a discussion in one of the sessions, but also to make the lesson learned from those case studies available for a lot of people. We also learned in the meantime that science is important. Again and again I underline this, but that we have also to bring the one or the other group of scientists together. I always learned those who normally had to be together mainly have a problem to come together. That's not only linked with science, by the way. And therefore, it was good that STPS from FAO and SPI of CCD could have their first common meeting here. And I see our good old friend Luc being with us, the former executive secretary of UNCCD. That, Luc, is not to criticize that you didn't before, but it is good to underline that also your contribution to the Global Soil Week in the past contributed to the fact that we have now a platform where we can maybe join hands and bring this better for the sake of good solutions. So that is also something what we can take on the good side of the overall result. We very much like that it was again very clear that whenever you want to be successfully with regard to this substance of transformation of land, you are always very close to the rule of law, very close to the rule of law, to the question of secure tenure, to the question of human rights. Yes, that is and has to be the common denominator in everything what we have to do. But we see it especially in this field. And, Madam Principal Secretary, coming from Kenya and coming from Africa, you know how important secure tenure is. In our compound in Gigiri, we had just next to us a wonderful forest, as you know, Karuru Forest. And we had there a lot of good cooperation with the late Mangari Maathai. Who owns this? What is that? That is not to criticize Kenya, please don't misunderstand it, but to come to a solution that we can rely on secure tenure goes to the right handling of the agenda for this, seems me to be one of the unquestioned topic of a result of these meetings here. It is really unquestioned. I'm also was very glad that the topic of sustainable development goals were very central for our discussion. And that we could also in our work before and with your help single out, be very, very aware of the fact that we have 17 sustainable development goals, but we have 10 of those going cross-cutting, asking directly or indirectly for services from soil, from biomass. And unluckily, if you sum it up, you come to a conclusion that the request for land biomass production is higher than we have on this globe. Therefore, it was a clear signal, and we will go on in this direction to ask, do we have something like priorities? Where can we substitute the one to the other? Because simply say something will come is not enough. So again, the SDGs to consider seems me to be a very, very important part. Next topic. We started not with the most important objective to make this as the institution for soil, but we want to prove whether such an instrument can help on the ground to make things better. Therefore, a criteria for success for us is and will be, can we multiply this on the local and the regional and the national level? Therefore, we were extremely honored that as a guest of honor, the minister from Brazil, Mr. Cedras, gave us a chance to be here and to inform us that Brazil, quite a country with a lot of challenges regarding the use of soil, that they also started to make such a comparable topic with their own priorities, with their own agenda, simply to say there might be some interrelation. And I learned, at least yesterday evening once more, that for example in Ethiopia, they will maybe come quite soon and send us a letter and say we want to do something like this as well. So I would be very happy if the one or the other country represented here comes also to such a conclusion. It would be helpful to have something on our national level. Why even not? So don't believe that we want to monopolize this. Quite on the contrary, wherever we have a chance to bring it on other places, it is a proof of success what we are doing here, and that's what we need urgently. So I want to not misuse those 10 minutes. I learned that 10 minutes is a very relative topic. They also informed us that we have to go 10 minutes to this place. Yeah? So these are the Berlin 10 minutes. So remember, this is a little bit flexible to both sides. Nevertheless, I'm very convinced that we have to motivate you to make your critical remarks available for us so that we can be better. And believe me, I say this with a lot of personal conviction, because whatever you recommend to do is not any longer to implement by myself. That is a good idea, you see, that you can be very, very frank if you know that your successor has to implement it. It is a good signal, and the politicians know it very much. There is an attractivity of very demanding targets for a time where the probability that you are still a minister is very low. That's very, very true. Those targets for a time where you have to implement it are more dangerous. And therefore, you can believe it comes from my true bottom of my heart, make my successor a good start by asking him to do it better than I could do it, and please come again. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank. Thank you very much, Klaus, for presenting the way forward and for reminding us that 10 minutes are relative. But also, I would like to say goodbye for you is also relative, because we won't let you go, and the next Global Soil Week you will be also here, but maybe in a different role, but you will have to come back. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's my pleasure to invite a distinguished panel to join me here. And this panel is going to discuss the main results of the conference. And Klaus Töpfer already said the headline is "Transformation is needed, transformation is possible." And from this conference, we want to send a strong signal of commitment to transformation. And therefore, we are going to discuss the headlines you have worked out. And now I try to introduce them very, very briefly to you. The panelists have received the results, and they are going to present their views on this result. The first message is a very simple one. Sustainable soil and land management can contribute to achieve several of the SDGs currently being debated. We are not asking for put soils in the center or have an SDG on soils only. No, we are convinced if you invest in soils, you contribute to the achievement of a lot of SDGs. And we are doing this also because we know that there will be a lot of discussion on setting of priorities, how much money to be invested. And we are convinced investment in sustainable land and soil management is a good investment because you support several of the SDGs. Second message is as simple as the first one. Soil rehabilitation is an important area where we can achieve benefits again for several SDGs, from food security to mitigation, adaptation to climate change, to support of ecosystem services. Soils are in the center, and therefore soils are supporting several of the SDGs. As a very cross-cutting issue, our message number 3 popped up in several of the sessions. If we are talking about soil protection and land rehabilitation policies, we are not talking only about technologies. Of course, we are talking about science and technologies, but we are also talking always about human rights. Who benefits? Who has to leave the land? How to ensure that vulnerable people can benefit from land rehabilitation, and therefore linking soils and human rights is an essential issue, and we want to send a strong signal from this conference. And therefore, we also will ask that we need a consistent approach for the implementation of the SDGs. Klaus Töpfer mentioned it, 17 SDGs, several targets, 304 indicators. How can we consistently implement these SDGs without further soil degradation? It should be the other way around. Working on land rehabilitation should support the implementation of these complex sets of SDGs. And therefore, and this is our message number 5, to make the transformational potential of the SDGs work, because SDGs means transforming development pathways, not only in developing countries, but also here in the developed world. SDGs are universal for all countries in the world. So we have to implement them in a way that at national level we do it in a coherent way, and therefore we need national policies to implement the SDGs. For Germany, it's very easy. We have to set up a plan for the implementation of the SDGs in Germany and by Germany, with our development cooperation, with our foreign investment. So in and by Germany, and this has to happen all over the world, and therefore we need a coherent approach, and soils can play a very important role as a cross-cutting sector. And in order to achieve all this, we have to build on the diversity of available knowledge. And we have to improve ways to articulate scientific knowledge and to link it to decision-making processes on the ground. That's quite a challenge, by the way, for the soil scientists as well as for the civil society people. They do not always speak the same language, even if they talk this international kind of language we have used here. And therefore, we need to build on the diversity, but we have to build bridges. And we have to identify common and joint responses to the pressing challenges of the world. And we are convinced investing in soil and land is a very, very good answer. These are the 6 headlines we will put now in the internet on the website Global Soil Week, that you can work with it, you can contribute to it. And we would like to ask now the panelists to provide their views on this very, very broad scope. And I have the pleasure now to invite 5 people to join us here. And it's always a question of protocol, whom to invite first. And today it's very easy, because the trains are on strike, and we have 2 people who have to leave first. And therefore, thanks to the unions in Germany, I have the pleasure to invite first Maria Krautsberger, the president of the Umweltbundesamt. I know you are the first. You have to leave because you have to reach not a train, that would be in vain, but you have to go to the airport. And therefore, I would like to join me here on the podium, and I would like to address you the first time. Thank you for having joined us. I first invite all. The second person who has to leave is Wilkie. I think you have to go back to Kenya, or? No, to Bangkok. Okay, a different destination, but you're also a victim of the strike, and therefore I would like to ask you to be the second speaker here, and I would like to join you here. Wilkie is the director, the Division of Environmental Policy Implementation of our partner, UNEP. We are happy that you are here, and I hope you can make it to the airport on time. Our next participant is Hubert Kedrago, and he is also coming from Africa, from Ethiopia, and he is one of the leading land experts from the Land Policy Initiative UNICA, the UN, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, located in Ethiopia. And now I have really the pleasure to invite the chair of the Committee on Food Security, a good friend, Gerda Verburg, to join me here. The Committee on Food Security is the most inclusive committee of the United Nations, comprised not only out of governments, but also multiple stakeholders, private sector, civil society, and this is the place where a lot of the things we have discussed will be further discussed and hopefully decided in a very good way. Thank you, Gerda, for joining us, and I would also like to invite you to come here. And last but not least, Ursula Schäfer-Preuß. She is the chair of the Global Water Partnership. And you might remember in the second Global Soil Week, we announced that we are working together. There is no land rehabilitation without water. There is no nexus debate without considering land and water. And therefore, Ursula, I'm really happy that you are here. Thanks for coming and for addressing.
Coming from Potsdam.
Coming from Potsdam.
But I cannot walk there.
Okay, so we have to find a way to bring you back. And therefore, I would really like now Maria Krautsberger to present for 5 minutes her views on the way forward. And you can, of course, take this.
Yeah, thank you very much for having the possibility to start this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I first would like to thank the IASS for hosting this conference, which is simply excellent. I did not have the chance to take part in the whole meeting, but I was talking to several participants and they were all excited about these days. And I also want to mention that the German Environment Agency is a partner of this Global Soils Week since the first event. And we think this is a very important institution in the meantime, has become almost an institution. Well, this week's discussion stressed the importance of soils for the SDGs, and you are all fully right. Soils are explicitly addressed several times in the current proposals of the SDG. Equally important, they play an implicit role for achieving a wide range of goals and targets, and this is most obvious for the targets on poverty and food security. The same is the case when it comes to water, to climate, to biodiversity issues. Or to put it in a nutshell, soils are key for achieving the SDGs due to their cross-cutting character, as we heard several times already during your contributions. Nevertheless, soils and the SDGs are surely not partners by default. And why is that so? Simply because during the implementation, there's a high risk ending up in silos. That does not only refer to disciplines or to people or stakeholder groups, but in particularly also to institutions, to organizations like the UN organizations. And we have to overcome the silo mentality, during the implementation process. This is a very important aspect I want to mention here. The awareness of the cross-cutting character of soils is still low. We all know that and we heard about that. What does that mean for the way forward? First, of course, awareness raising has to remain on top of the to-do list. For us, it is obvious, but for many people, the implicit interlinkages between soils and, for example, poverty are not obvious. However, it becomes striking once you explain that 75% of the world's poorest people live in rural areas, and those 1.4 billion people depend on fertile soils for agricultural activities to safeguard their mere existence. 50% of hungry people are farming families. Fostering soil fertility on their land is vital to tackle poverty and hunger. Moreover, the choice of indicators will be crucial for the success of the SDGs. We need soil-related indicators that have a cross-cutting character, and this will make them more relevant and more visible. During the last 3 days, various possible indicators have been discussed. Changes in soil organic carbon seems one promising possible indicator, as it is important for several aspects. It's important for soil fertility, for biodiversity, soil water storage, and carbon sequestration. However, we need more evidence about that. We need also more science-based knowledge on the applicability of this indicator, and therefore the German Environment Agency is cooperating with Ratan Lal's team at The Ohio State University, and we want to sound out options if and how this indicator is applicable on a global level. In addition to global indicators, also national indicators are necessary to address region-specific soil threats. In Germany, for instance, of course, land consumption and soil sealing for housing and infrastructure are important issues. Vice versa, salinization obviously does not play a role in Germany, yet it certainly is a major soil threat in other regions. Finally, to put the SDGs successfully into practice, we also need an evaluation of existing policies. Accordingly, necessary measures need to be developed and comprehensively implemented. The cross-cutting character of soil issues is currently not adequately reflected in global and also in German policies, and therefore readjustments and even refocusing on existing policy will be required in the future. We, the German Environment Agency, are mandated by the German Environment Ministry to develop concrete recommendations on how this can be achieved. When developing national indicators and policy and measures, we also have to raise the question of what is our national responsibility in a globalized world. does national environmental responsibility only refer to the environment within our national border? In fact, it is necessary to take into account all environmental impacts of our activities, no matter where they take place in a globalized world. And the idea that negative environmental cross-border effects need to be addressed is not really new. For instance, the EU Renewable Energy Directive for biofuels includes sustainability criteria, such as avoiding biofuel production on freshly converted forest land. We should think about further developing this approach. We should also consider applying such sustainability criteria for agricultural commodities in general. It could also mean complementing the approach by including further criteria on sustainable land and soil management. We should, in this context, not only consider biodiversity or carbon footprints, but also further environmental and societal criteria. Having said this, it's evident that our work does not end once the SDGs have been adopted. The end of the negotiations of the SDGs mark the starting point for the implementation. Sound scientific knowledge and a participatory approach are vital to successfully put the SDGs into practice. And it's now time to start walking the talk. And to make this concrete for the national implementation, let me end with a warm invitation for the World Soils Day. That is on the 3rd December. We will host an event on soils and the implementation of the SDGs in Germany. This event will create a dialogue platform, and a wide range of stakeholders and policymakers will take part, and it will be also open to the public. So therefore, let me already now warmly invite you to participate. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much also for the invitation to the World Soil Day. The next is Mette Wilkie, and I know that you have to leave very soon. So this is not a signal of protest. When Maria Krautsberger is leaving, she really has to catch a flight. Mette Wilkie, and without criticizing anybody, I would like to draw the attention of my fellow panelists to this little screen. This is a little support tool because it gives you the time you still have available, so that as Klaus Töpfer did you exactly speak 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And therefore, Mette, please take the floor here so that you have a better look at the screen.
Thank you, Alexander. In the essence of time, I have taken my speech and I have torn it up. We have heard a lot from the keynote speakers. We've heard a lot over the last 3 days. And we heard from Klaus Töpfer, a sort of a rounding of what we have done within the last 3 days. It's very difficult to then add something. So I will just pick on one of the messages that have come across here and give a couple of thoughts to that. And that's the one, again, also on the SDGs, but more importantly about what we can do about it. We've heard a lot about the SDGs over this last 3 days. We've heard there are 17 of them and that we should consider them as an integrated package. We can't just cherry pick one or the other of the goals. Soils are in many ways the glue or the clay, if you will, that bind most of these together. But yet we have also heard that if we look at business as usual and the land that is needed to meet all the goals of the SDGs, we don't have enough land on planet Earth. So it is clear that business as usual is no longer an option. I can't state that too clearly. We do need to think much better about how we're using our resources. We need to be more creative. We need to be more innovative. In terms of the enabling framework, we have heard here about the needs for tenure. We've also heard about financing, both in generating finance, but also to make sure that we use it better. In a session this morning, I came up with the example that we have, for example, on domestic finance. and on perverse incentives. We had a recent study shows that 2 countries, not to name names, but 2 countries that are the largest in terms of loss of forest every year and are receiving quite a lot of ODA to help reduce deforestation and degradation. But when you look at the domestic subsidies for those commodities that are the main drivers of deforestation and degradation in those 2 countries, palm oil, timber, soya, and soybean, the total amount of domestic subsidies is 126 times what they receive to actually reduce deforestation and degradation. So there's something totally wrong with the way that we've set up our financial system. So at the national level, the plea to those who are policymakers, decision makers here, to look at this, to look at how do we create an enabling environment so that we also can, and that's the second part, on the ground, scale up many of those excellent case studies that we have heard over the last 3 days. There are so many of them, but many of them are not being scaled up simply because once that happens, something comes from the outside and changes that because we don't have the enabling framework. So do continue to carry out the very good work on the ground. Do continue to generate and share new knowledge so that we can find better ways to sustainably manage our soils and our lands. And thirdly, we, all of us, need to change our behaviors. We need to move towards sustainable production and sustainable consumption. It is shameful that 40% of all the food that's produced goes to waste. This is clearly somewhere where we, our families, and our friends can make a change. So what I'm asking you to do here, when you come away from this, take away the messages that are here, help us preach to those that are not yet converted about the importance of soil, about the importance of changing what we do and how we do, including how we lead our own lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mette. There are 41 seconds left. We will save them and we will add it to the speech time you will have when you come back to the Global Soil Week. Unfortunately, there are very low interest rates also in this regard, so it will remain 41 seconds. The next comments by our friend Hubert from the Land Policy Initiative from Africa. What are, from your perspective, the main challenges Africa has to face with regard to lands and soil? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I think that during this Global Soil Week, I have heard a lot about sustainability and about transformation. These are topics which speaks a lot to the African continent. As you are already aware, most observers have pointed out that Africa is on the rise. The growth rate is average 5% and sometimes more since more than a decade. But the questions that Africans are asking, is such a growth sustainable? And the second question would be how to make such growth more inclusive. We all heard about the tragedy in the Mediterranean, where all those young people are leaving the continent, not only the continent, there are other parts of the world, but the continent is highly concerned by this tragedy, meaning that this growth that we are seeing is not benefiting the people. That's why some of them decide to leave. We are seeing opportunities, in a way, in making sustainable development and transformation. with the use of land and improvement of the land governance. Today, we consider that land is a strategic resource for the continent. Let's put land in the perspective of the major change trends in the world. We have the population growth, which is highly important. I think that you might have heard or seen the statistics, the perspectives that the continent will double by 2050. And more recent studies are showing that the continent will quadruple by the end of this century, meaning that we need to feed all those people. And where is the land? The land is in Africa. This is a strategic resource. Urbanization, more and more people will be living in urban areas in Africa. Those people will not be agricultural producers. You need to feed them. Where are the land resources to feed all those urban population? This land is also in Africa. Meaning that others are seeing opportunities on land, African land resources. That's why we have also this so-called land rush in the continent. But we also see that there are opportunities and that we need to protect our land resources so that they can sustain and feed the world tomorrow. Another opportunity, I think, is an increased commitment. You all know that the continent has adopted a declaration on land, the EU Declaration on Land, but we also are very happy that the commitment is also there at global level with tools like the voluntary guidelines. That's why we think that what I learned from all this session is that it's important to have the right policies in place. I don't know if I'm translating well, but in French, we have a say that il n'y a pas de bon vent à celui qui ne sait pas où il va. Let me try to translate that there's no favorable wind to the sailor who doesn't know where he's going. So let's have a direction. That's the policies. And let's focus our policies on some of the most critical issues, recognizing and protecting the legitimate land rights of the local people and communities. Second direction I'm seeing, if we have the right policies in place, let's implement those policies. Most countries are making efforts. Kenya is part of them, Uganda, South Sudan, and so on. But how do we move from policy to concrete action to policy implementation? That's a second direction of importance to me. And the last one would be monitoring and evaluation. Let's learn from our past successes, but also from our past failures. And let's also learn to make timely adjustment when necessary. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hubert. Now I would like to invite Gerda Wehrburg to take the floor. Gerda Wehrburg was chair of the Commission on Sustainable Development. She was a politician and she's currently chair of the Committee on Food Security. I think 5 minutes is absolutely not enough to present all the perspective you could present. And therefore, of course, I know you will stick to your time. We will open afterwards the floor for questions from the plenary to the participants, to the panelists, and then feel free to discuss with the 3 remaining panelists any question you have. Gerda, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexander, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by showing my admiration with you, because I think that I'm the 111th speaker, and you still look fresh and interested. So, my comments. I have 5 topics on my list, and the first is accepting the invitation of Klaus Töpfer. What do you miss when you go out of Berlin? I would say what is needed is a plan of action. And we need concrete action for concrete results. That is the only way forward. We cannot continue to analyze. We cannot continue to organize conferences. We need concrete actions for concrete results for people at grassroots. My second remark is that I was happy to read here in the summary of Klaus Töpfer that science has to conduct society. Yes, not only they need a link between science and society, also with farmers, but you need to have a concrete plan of action. You need science, society, you need shakers, you need movers, you need people who can do the strategic thinking, and you need operators. So really you need to have a composition of participants in meetings like this or in meetings like my own committee, the Committee on World Food Security. Alexander has said already something about it, but this is what you need to move forward. My third remark and suggestion is it's necessary to have transformation. But if we all go out in the streets of Berlin or we go home, everybody will agree with us without understanding. So what we need is a new narrative here. We cannot go further like we did last decades. What we need is a very convincing narrative. And what we need is marketing. And what we need is concrete lobbying, because it will not walk out of the room in a declaration. It can only make change if we are convinced about this narrative, about this way, this move forward, this direction, and that we can lobby and convince the decision makers not only to make the right decisions, but also to put their money where their mouth is. That's my third remark. The fourth remark is think out of the box and try to bring not only the several players around the table. I saw here already several participants of the CFS. Happy to see you. We see you everywhere, but you know how effective it can be to think out of the box. For instance, farming and food production is part of the problem of climate change. But you only can find real solutions if you consider soil, food, agriculture and food production as part of the solutions and make them co-responsible for final solutions and for improving climate change. Well, this morning you had an interesting debate on the voluntary guidelines on the governance of tenure to land, fisheries and forests. This is one of the products of CFS, of the Committee of World Food Security. We have been negotiating like hell, I would say, but negotiating hard means also that you invest in trust, because once you have a consensus, you are also convinced that together you can implement it at grassroots. We also developed the principles for responsible investment in agriculture and food systems. And indeed, there we found that, or we underscored, that smallholders and family farmers are the biggest investors in agriculture and food production. This is my fourth, so I suggest that you make use of our platform and our structure. My last point is have a very concrete message, marketing and lobby to the three main events this year. Addis, Sustainable Development Goals in New York in September, and COP Paris. Don't leave it only to the negotiators there. Make them open, tell them the new narrative, and convince them that we have to change in order to give our children a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerda. Straightforward, exactly 5 minutes, and a very clear task for all of us. Now you know what your homework is. Ursula Schäfer-Preuß, please take the floor.
Let me dive with you in water. Soil, the substance of transformation. I would say water and soil, substance of transformation. I'm now with the Global Water Partnership, which is a global network with more than 3,000 partners on the ground in over 170 countries. The Global Water Partnership is a partnership for sustainable development, and it's active since after the Rio Conference. 1996 has been founded. Next year we have our 20th anniversary. And we are committed to equitable and sustainable management of water resources. As Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has said, and we had this as a decade, water is life, water is everywhere, soil sustains life, and I would think and say there is a strong connectivity between water and soil. Water affects all sectors, not only food and energy, also health, urbanization, environment, climate change, agriculture, agricultural production, industrial production, you name it. Soil and water do have a lot of common entry points. I will come to that a little later. Because of the importance of water for the human well-being, it is of utmost importance to have a dedicated water goal. It has been talked about. Among the 17 proposed goals, this is goal number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And it is also important that the challenge of water security is reflected in the other goals directly related to water management, including poverty, health, food, energy, gender, cities and ecosystems included, not to forget the soils and land. We are aware and we engage with our partners in the appropriate fora to develop a manageable and comprehensive set of indicators to monitor progress and identify bottlenecks, focusing on the goal number 6. Still a long way to go, we all know it, but we are, I think, on the right track now. Now let me come to the interlinkages between water and soil. Water and soil must go together, for example, to grow crops. This is well known, but I think there is still a big gulf between soils people and water people. I have heard a little bit about that here. Funding is obviously a problem. Soil issues are mostly under the Ministry of Environment, and most agriculture water issues are under agricultural ministries. So there is an issue of the cross-cutting dialogue. One could say soil and water must get together if agriculture is to succeed in feeding the world and its growing population, and the problem with the soil deteriorating over time. We have to find and identify a one way forward. Land and soil mean different things, but tend to be used interchangeably. So I think there's still something we have to look into and how to go over that. I would like to inform the audience here that the GWP, together with the International Land Commission, will hold a workshop in June in Pretoria, focusing on the need to coordinate land and water governance. We focus in GWP so far on land and water governance, soil being, so to speak, part of that. But I think that really has to be further looked into, as this is, as we are all aware, is very important. But so far for us, it has not been so much on the agenda. In a way, soil being the thin layer of material that covers the land on which crops grow, and I think this is really something where one has to broaden the picture.
Well, we have now to identify joint entry points between ISS and the Global Water Partnership for a closer cooperation, integrating the respective thinking. And this should, I think, primarily happen on the ground with our partners on the ground, because they know what specifically has to be done. And I think this has also been discussed here. You have to look into these various layers, government level, the regional level, on the communities, but you have to get the local people with their experience on board. And this is where we in the Global Water Partnership really are engaged with the stakeholders on the ground. So let us find a joint way to better cooperate and coordinate, looking into water and soil being the substance of transformation. And let us find concrete solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ursula. We had a lot of interaction during the last days, starting Sunday in the evening, very frank discussions, sometimes controversial. And we had planned for this plenary 30 minutes of interaction with the panelists. And now you will see how short 30 minutes can be, because we will allow only 4 people to take the floor, to have brief questions, so that we can stay within the time frame we have allocated for it. We have microphones here all over the place. Who wants to be the first to raise a question? Winfried, please introduce yourself with 1 sentence.
Winfried Blum from Vienna, Austria, emeritus professor in soil science. We have heard quite a lot about sustainable development goals, and we have also clearly heard the signals to sharpen our goals for transformation. Now my question is the actual formulation of sustainable development goals sharp enough to meet our goals which we formulated here? I had to write a report for a UN organization on soils and sustainable development goals, and I know a little bit what I'm talking about. And a last comment, the International Council of Science in Paris, together with the International Social Science Council, evaluated the Sustainable Development Goals and found out that even that 50% correspond to a coherent system. So I will stop here. I see a gap, and this is my final comment, between the political formulation of goals and the formulation on the other side of science, trying to get clear signals where to go in the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. The next question from behind, yes?
Good morning, thank you. My name is Theodore Quinchua. I work for CEG in Cameroon. I think it's quite clear that we need to change things, the way we do things, and most people said, okay, in terms of paradigm, today the way we invest is, what the model we prioritize is in general large-scale investment. And someone said something very important. I want to take that from this conference, is that we need to do advertising of the good solutions. So one thing I would like to recommend, I am recommending it because when we come from these big meetings, when we discuss with decision makers in our countries, you'll hear someone saying, have you ever seen a country getting developed just by allocating more rights to communities on land? So I think from these kind of avenues, in terms of advertising, we need to share more good results of best practices. If you have countries where communities owning land or having more secure rights on the land, if you have such countries that got developed or that reached a certain level of what they call development, then I think we need to share more of that, to do more advertisement on that kind of very good practices, because only that way we can convince decision makers back home. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have I seen anybody asking for the floor here? Please bring the microphone, and then we go back to the left side from mine.
Thank you very much. My name is Jojo Nair, Member of Parliament in Kenya. We were attending the conference with two of my other colleagues, and we were really hoping we'd get an opportunity to know what tools would come up with from here to go and lobby in Parliament to get some of these progressive ideas into laws of the country, because in as much as they are flying out here in science, if we do not reduce them into legislation in our countries, they cannot legitimately be funded, and they cannot get grounding amongst the people. And I think going forward, I would propose that you have partners. I can see JZ present in Kenya. You could have champion partners in each and every country to lobby with legislatures in those countries to help them get the tools to include these ideas into laws. We have in front of us in Kenya, for example, now, the big law of agriculture is called the AFA Act that runs the PSS ministry. We have the Crops Act, we have the Kenya Forestry Act, Community Land Bill coming up. All these legislations would benefit very much from the progressive ideas we are seeing. So if you could probably, in a progressive manner, get somebody, a body, a partner of yours in each and every country to be the champion that liaises with the parliaments to give the tools that can enable these ideas getting lost. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Are there other requests for the floors? I have here a person. Have I overlooked others? So number 4, and please. Yes.
Heiner Benking, Council of Global Issues in Toronto, and I'm with the Global Commons Alliance in ECOSOC. So what I would like to question here is, first, I think we are not broad enough in scope. With Noel Brown, we summarized after Rio, we need common frames of references. And they are not only common grids, but they should be multidimensional but concrete. And that's why we've been building them. Second point, I hear here new narrative, new models, new images. We need to integrate the science system. There's theory around system sciences speaking about super science and superstructures. And when you build them, it is possible to do this. And the last of our recommendations we do like every 2 months to all heads of states and ambassadors and the Secretariat is to revisit the old, not the new thinking only. In Rio, there were the intersectorial strategic dilemmas tabled. And 2 years earlier, with the White House conference and the German Chancellery, we were building such concrete scale models, you can call them grids, to really negotiate positions and perspectives. This was my point.
Thanks a lot. 4 questions. The first question was coherence. Are the SDGs coherent and are they sustainable? Second was, what are the good solutions? Where do we have the best practices? Where can we get the toolboxes to translate science into legal systems at country level? And I would like to phrase the last intervention, how can we come from silos to systems? Very simple questions to be answered in a short period of time by the 3 remaining panelists. Systems and models. Who wants to start? Gerda, please.
Let me do this, and let me stand up because I appreciate these questions. The point is to be the most important thing is to become very concrete in the actions, and not only in the actions but also in action plans for concrete results. And thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals, are they coherent enough? Probably not. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense to try to make them more coherent now, because you can always be missing something. the important thing about the Sustainable Development Goals is the involvement of people outside negotiators on behalf of the government. So science was involved prior to decision making on the Sustainable Development Goals. Civil society, NGOs were there. Private sector is committed. And I doubt whether, or it's clear that the decision making has to be done by governments, but the implementation there we need the partnerships between all players. And they should take the Sustainable Development Goals, including the 169 targets, and there will be indicators developed next March. There will be so there are, let's say, indicators enough to implement them in each country. But the most important thing is that we build around the Sustainable Development Goals partnership, committed partnership that can help people at grassroots level to improve lives, to improve soil, to improve water, to improve agriculture, and to create win-win situation, because this is where it's all about. Thinking about the box, I would say, why not sitting as science people together with people in the seed sector to give some seeds or bulbs, a little backpack with you. In the Netherlands, I've been in politics, I've been the Minister of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands we have an education system where children with well, a few problems in life, they get a backpack to get extra support, to get a kickstart and to make it to succeed. Well, this can also be done when it comes to seed and soils and to improve yields and at the same time improve soils. Well, this is thinking about out of the box. Let us do it because it is possible, but then integrate or invite then also the other people so that you can make concrete deals and convince each other and go out, walk out here in this meeting with concrete plans. I was the one who talked about not advertising, but do the marketing. When you have concrete plans for concrete results, do the marketing, do the lobby, because only paper is not enough. I receive, to be honest, I receive, I think, about 8 newsletters by email per week. Well, sometimes if I have a lot of time, I'm happy to read them because they're always interesting, but let me tell you, it's impossible. So you have to go out, use your network, use your links, and try to convince your government or your parliament. And then when it comes to making laws, etc., and to have the tools, well, come to me or to other people here. There are so many tools to hand over, but what you need is a consistent and reliable narrative, a good plan of marketing, and you have to do your lobby in a holistic way, not from farm to fork, but let's say from soils and water, because I agree with you, from soils and water to the consumers, and all people and chains in between should be addressed in a proper way. I leave it to this because otherwise I talk too much and the other questions can't be answered.
Thanks a lot, Hubert. And then Ursula, please.
Maybe I'll focus on the question regarding best practices. Where are some of those best practices that we can use? I would say that my first reaction would be to question the concept of best practices. How do we know that a practice is the best? What are the criteria? I don't have an answer. It's just a question that I'm sharing with you. Sorry that I'm sending back a question to you. But anyway, in my organization, we have tried to work on some of those best practices. For example, in the field of large-scale land-based investment, we tried to document practices which are based on inclusive models and which do not require necessarily a transfer of land rights in the context of the investment. We consider them as best practices. In another field, land administration, we also try to document some of the practices which allow a land administration system to capture the local land right, which in most cases are customary-based land rights, and in a cost-effective manner. We also consider them as best practice and tried to document them. And also in the field of women's land rights, we try to document some of the practices trying to provide access or ownership right to women in different contexts. So these are some of my comments I would like to share with you. Yes, but let's also think of how do we define what a best practice is.
Thanks a lot, Ursula.
I would want to go back for a moment to the MDGs. We have built quite a good system to monitor the MDGs and have supported our partner countries in Africa, Latin America, and Asia to really beef up their statistical reporting systems and do the work on the ground. I think this experience should not be forgotten. We should continue there, use it for the establishment of a broader, more complex arrangement for the SDGs, including all countries on our globe, so to speak, and then try to identify simple tools for monitoring via SDGs and develop indicators. I know this is complicated, but I think we are on the right way, but not forget the experience and also what still has to be done from the MDG context. I think this is really, otherwise we might lose a lot of time. Then we really have, and this has been mentioned here, we have the political statements for the SDGs, this is important, but the political essence and substance has to be translated into concrete language so that the people on the ground can understand what is meant. And I think this is something where we still all have to work on and develop the appropriate toolkits. Also for that, there is much on the ground available. We have to put it together in an intelligent way. And then one thing we should never forget, get the youth involved, because they are the next generation who have to really take all this on board, and they have to understand what we are doing and what we are thinking and how things should be, because it's for them in the years ahead to implement and work on this ground. Thank you.
I would like to thank our panelists, and Ursula, you have made the perfect connection to what is happening now, because at the margins of the last Global Soil Week, we discussed exactly the question how to integrate young people. And therefore GIZ, VOCAT and IASS have organized a meeting of young professionals in the middle of this Global Soil Week. And we have now two very important people representing the future of what has to be done from a young professional's perspective. And therefore, I would like to invite for 2 minutes, very strict protocol, Siyabonga Miesa and Hannah Steenbergen, because you are representing the more than 20 young professionals, students, PhD students, young professionals who have worked here at the Global Soil Week, and we are really happy that you are here. Please come to the stage.
Thank you so much for inviting us onto the stage. We're standing here representing all of the young professionals at the Global Soil Week. Can they all stand up so we can see their faces? We are a group of around 23 young professionals from all around the world. We are artists, scientists, and practitioners. This week, we've got to know each other, we've got to talk to leading experts in different fields, and we've gained the momentum and the inspiration to take forward our very own soil-related projects when we go back home. we're thankful that this was organized for us. This is the first time that this has ever happened, this Young Professionals program at the Global Soil Week. Thank you all to who organized it. What we would really like to see is that the next years have even more young people. We'd like to also see more land workers at this conference. And we'd also like to see something else at this conference.
And lucky enough, we did bring him with us.
Some real soil, ladies and gentlemen. We present you with some real soil. We thought this conference can't end unless we have some real physical soil at the Global Soil Week. This week, we've heard a lot of words about participatory processes, integration, and long-term sustainable development goals. We believe that as young people, these are not possible unless you include us in this. We hope that you're going to give us the opportunities to take these forward because we're ready. We're dynamic, we're creative, and we want to dig in. I want to let Sia explain his story about Global Soil Week from his perspective.
Thank you, Hannah. My name is Sia from South Africa. I'm with the Environmental Monitoring Group, and I work in the drylands in the Northern Cape in issues of land rehabilitation and sustainable farming, working closely with small-scale farmers. Working working with grassroots communities give me an opportunity to see the joy and pride of the people when they work on their lands and to see the produce thereof. And having been offered the opportunity to come and witness the goals on a global perspective, and after that going home and share the goals on the global level, and having the knowledge and the capacity to work at a local level, but knowing exactly that we're influencing a goal, we are feeding to a goal at the global perspective is refreshing. So for me, as a young professional, I see young professionals as agents of change, because we are involved at grassroots communities, at grassroots settings. And if we are exposed to a global scale and go back home and practice these perspectives, this knowledge at that ground level, at that grassroots level, I think young professionals will make a significant contribution into achieving sustainable soil. Thank you. And on that note, we'd like to invite you to join us on our open discussion tomorrow, intergenerational open space tomorrow. If you'd like to join us, you're invited. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for joining us. We are really happy that you are here. And we really hope that next Global Soil Week we will have even more younger people here with us. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the panelists. And before we are coming to the real closing of the Global Soil Week, one brief announcement. We are waiting for your feedback. So if you go to Global Soil Week, there's an evaluation. You can provide feedback, you can criticize us, you can tell us what you really liked, and you can make proposals for improvement. And before Klaus Töpfer is closing this Global Soil Week, we would like to do something which Gerda had recommended. We need a new narrative. And some of you might have seen it during the sessions. There were some people sneaking in and out, listening a little bit, making notes, and we have asked the theater sport group from Berlin, professional actors, to provide their perspective, their narrative from what they have observed here, what they had listened in, and what is their perspective on the way forward and the new narrative. Please come in and enter the stage.
theater group. I learned that they should be in the house. And as I mentioned already before, when something is a little bit complicated, they ask me to do it. It's very good working division, by the way. So I don't start dancing, I don't start singing. Are there any other options? No. But I start to say thank you. And there are lots of good reasons to do this. First, of course, to those who contributed in the plenary, also today. Thank you very much. I know that your timetable is extremely busy and that you had to invest a lot of time to be here. But I'm happy also to know to come to Berlin is an end in itself. If you can combine it with a soil week, please do it again. That goes to you all. It would be great to have you also in the future, not only coming 1 year and 1 year, but also coming step by step to something like a network. This is also a fact of highest importance to know those others who have problems comparable, but have also solutions, and we can join hands. I sincerely believe that what we learned today is helpful in all those dimensions. I also want to thank, egoistically as I am, to those in the EISS very intensively concentrated to this activity. I can inform you that, for example, Jens Weigelt decided not go home in the night, but to sleep in Potsdam. I cannot go in to see his wife, she will kill me, I believe. But yes, now you have no reason, we have to go home, that's for sure. But I want to thank you very much for doing this and to organize also the whole group for this. And what I mentioned to Jens, of course, is true to Alexander as well. I believe we have also to go a long way to have such a group of experienced, dedicated, and leading people as we have it in our group with Jens and with Alexander. And I sincerely hope that this can have also good consequences for the future. Alexander, thank you so much for your activity. And needless to say, I want to express my gratitude to our Global Soil Forum team, very young and very dedicated people. It's my problem that they are always in the age of my grandchildren, you see. That gives me a feeling. Nobody asked for the old people to speak here because they are anyhow speaking, but if young people are coming, lots of applause, you see. That is, it's better to go to China. That is a little bit the other way around. Maybe it's changing as well. Anyhow, I thank you very much for those young people's contribution, also for our steering committee, without any doubt, and to the presentation of the young people. Here is the soil. By the way, mentioning soil, we have, of course, soil integrated in this Global Soil Week. If you go a little bit around, there are the colors of soil in the world, a piece of art. I can inform you this morning the ambassador of Oman was here because one main topic of those soils come from Oman. And if you see this wonderful integrated in colors, it gives you again the feeling that soils are important and they are also very close to the heart of the people. So good to have the soil now here. By the way, who is responsible for cleaning up? It's always the same at home, you see. The other makes it and no, I don't go on. Anyhow, thank you very much for this, and please don't forget also this exhibition of art. It is our endeavor in our institute to prove that sustainable development can be only successful if you integrated the cultural dimension as well. And that is more, but it is also linked with those paintings, those pieces of art. It's not painting, it is using sand and to prove the different colors. So thank you very much for this contribution. We have to express once more our gratitude to all our donors and those organizing as partners this. I mentioned this, I want to repeat it also, having in mind that the president of the Umweltbundesamt came on a day where we have some problems to be mobile in Germany, physically mobile. Mentally, they're all mobile, there's no doubt. Anyhow, that she was here was an honor for us, and that this is only one example of all the partners we have. We are very, very happy to have it on the global level with UNEP and with FAO, that we have on the European level with the European Commission, and again, it's a problem to start mentioning the one you know, you forget others. So what was the right way? I learned in Africa, all protocol observed. Then we are on the safe side in any case. Let's go to Africa. You learn a lot, by the way. It's very good. Your Excellencies from the Parliament, of course, as well, all protocol observed. That's good. Thank you for coming and being with us. I started on Monday morning with a team, therefore it is not only a politeness, it's also very nice to thank Yvonne Lobos. Is she still here? Ah, there. Well, I think we can go on doing something like this. And I also want to express especially my thanks to all those being not daily and not always visible, but doing everything to make it happen. And to mention this, I want to concentrate all this to a young and very, very busy lady, to Corinna Bobzin. Thank you very much, Corinna. And ganz herzlichen Dank, ganz herzlichen Dank. Haben Sie prima gemacht, ganz wunderbar. And to make our friend from Kenya happy, next time there will be flowers from Kenya. Of course, fair trade. Fair trade. I know there are also fair trade roses coming from Kenya, and if you go to those places, having the direct link to geothermal energy production, fine to learn that Kenya will be one of the countries with 100% independence in their energy balance. All this comes together. You remembered on the nexus to water, it is to energy, it is to food, it is everything. And I believe that is necessary also to single out one or the other. So thank you very much for this. Finally, I also want to hope that you can make it home. So the better way is, please stay tomorrow here and go to what we probably known to you all, organized for tomorrow, because tomorrow evening, inshallah, the strikes comes to an end. It costs some time to come back to normality. But now I have nothing else to say, and I sincerely hope that the professional theater is here. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
Genau. So hi there.
So here we are.
Here
Hello.
we are.
Hello.
We don't know nothing. We play simply
nothing.
for you without nothing. We don't know nothing. We have some phrases of you from the workshops in this morning. Phrases, about 70 phrases, which we will use. But first, we tell you a story about a very far land. Give me a very far land. Where are you from? Swaziland. Okay.
Swaziland.
This is from Swaziland.
How far is it, like in miles or kilometers? Just to get an idea.
Very far.
11 hours flight.
11 hours flight, okay.
11 hours flight.
Is there a little object in your land which is very important and maybe not known in Germany? So a little
something that
object, something special.
You can show it, you can also say it.
Okay,
what is
what's this?
What's
this?
Like that's a fur.
It's a fur
tail.
A tail from an animal, or?
It's a monkey.
A monkey. Oh my God.
A monkey. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a dead
It's a monkey.
It's a monkey.
So we will tell the story of and the fur will be part of it. A fur tail.
Okay.
A monkey fur tail, wow.
Here we go. We count down 5, 4, 3, 1, 0. Okay.
5, 4, 3, 1, 0.
The
little
monkey
saw
a
big
monkey.
He
said,
"Hey,
you
big
monkey,
come
here
and
touch
me
here."
Where?
Here.
Here.
Ah, yeah. The
big
monkey
said,
well,
I
love
monkeys.
Backs.
The
little
monkey
took
the
big
monkeys
fur
and
cut it
down.
So
there
where
fur
and
fur
later
the
big
monkey
remarked,
"Hey,
I am
without
fur.
I am
furless."
Hey.
Okay, that's it.
So improvised.
Okay, that's it.
So far,
So.
take the little monkey serious.
yeah, always.
These are your phrases from this morning. So you make simply ah.
Okay.
Oh.
A big
Here
lump
we
in
go.
the middle. So many important
So
things
we
that
will
say.
play a lot of short scenes, and we will include all these phrases. Not all the phrases, but some of them.
We try to motivate these phrases
Yeah.
also. So
Try. Okay. So for the first story, for the first scene, these two men are in a special position. Do you have a favorite painter? Yes.
Rembrandt,
So
okay.
would you
Okay.
be in a position like Rembrandt would paint it? Yeah.
Like the
Very
two,
nice.
The two Dutch brothers.
Okay, this is the beginning of the first story. Please.
William,
Yes.
today's the day where we go outside.
Yes. After a long time in winter, we will open our doors and go outside.
Isn't it lovely here?
I don't know. I didn't open the door yet.
Oh, we will do it now. Mother said always,
It's a GBE effect.
if you open up, it's a GBE effect?
Yeah, it's a GBE effect. If you open up the door, it says, go blow east. Go blow
yeah, you're right.
east.
Stop. New scene. A new scene. And I need your exact profession. What's your exact profession? Biologist. Okay. And we have one biologist.
Okay.
Mr. Müller.
Yes, you have to keep it up. 2 hours, because the bacteria, they grow in thin air.
Yes. Here is something written.
Oh, I have to put my goggles on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad is the connection between values and behavior.
Could you explain that, please?
Yes. Well, if you don't have values and you have bad behavior, you should be sad.
Yeah.
Like these bacteria,
Yeah.
they grow and they put a lot of bad things in your body, so there's quite bad behavior of the bacteria.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, just put them up there in the high and thin air. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh, the whole thing is growing much
Yeah, and
more
look,
than
look,
expected.
one is speaking. I hear. Who gets the money?
That's a good question. Well, I can give you the answer. I am not on the list.
New scene. New scene. New scene.
Those two guys, they are at a place where you might be you were maybe 2 weeks ago. a place on earth, like a country, or make it a bit more concrete. Rome. They are in Rome.
Oh, Zeus.
It's far, far back in Rome.
I want to tell you something which is very important.
I know it already because I'm a god.
Yes.
I'm Zeus. And I know what you want to tell me. I can tell you. Who is the decision maker? It's not me.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Zeus. But who is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm God. I'm Zeus.
So please ask.
Over Zeus.
Who's over you? The universe.
I ask the universe. I have one question to the universe.
Yes, please ask me and I will give you the answer.
Who's that?
I want to ask you how and why we finance local institutions.
We don't have to, we are gods.
Okay, but what shall we do?
Let me check in my archive.
We do not need incremental change. This is a leap. We need colossal change.
You're right. You're right.
Stop. So, a new story, and
You will like that.
I want to do something with the soil now.
with the soil.
I do.
So
Yeah.
he carries something in his hands, which is something from the soil. What could it be?
Something
Big
that
thing,
size.
like a big potato or
A stone.
A stone.
That I found. It's not really heavy.
Very, very strange.
Yes, Professor Brown, I just found it.
Where?
In the soil.
In the soil?
Yes, it just was there for years and I think millenniums.
In this district where it is marked with very big letters, we had no revolutionary ideas.
Yeah. We didn't have any ideas, so we put stones in the soil.
Okay.
Oh, somebody engraved something. My God, it's the first sign of civilization.
It must be very old. So
yes, it's
it's marked.
It's
I can read it.
Yes, you can read it. Me too.
It is invisible in this room.
Because it was in the soil.
Incredible.
They just put the stone in the soil to make it invisible. My God.
Do you have a second stone like this?
How do you know, Mr. Professor Brown? I have a second stone. It's the same size.
It's the same
Actually,
size. Okay.
incredible. It's a sign of civilization. Incredibly. My God. It's a door.
It's a door. We can enter.
Are you inside?
I'm inside. Big letters there. Big letters. Oh, can't read.
Yeah, I make some light.
Make some light. It's a good idea, but I won't be there tomorrow. What?
Stop.
Those two have a relationship. It might be a professional relationship or a personal relationship. So, did you ever have a relationship? Just name it. Husband and wife. Husband and wife. Very good. The classical relationship.
I love scrambled eggs.
Yes.
I love.
Yeah, I did them for you. Honey.
Yes?
I have a problem.
What?
Yes, in our garden.
Yes, what?
There is this little fontaine, water fontaine,
Okay.
and my ring fell down, and
It's no problem.
it's a problem.
Yes?
Because I tried to get it back,
And?
then I found a very old plastic thing.
Okay.
It's a letter.
Okay.
And in this letter was written,
What?
The organic sector is not the problem.
No, because I am plastic.
Okay.
I think this has something to do with our relationship.
Why?
You know, the organic sector.
Charlotte, I know what you want from me.
Oh.
I know
Really?
it exactly.
Mhm.
I know it so well.
Okay.
Who?
But you don't know.
No, I don't know. We need short questions and short answers.
Yes.
Okay. I need a very. What do you know? What do you need?
I
Is
have
it okay?
everything.
Okay. Simply
Okay.
continue.
No, give me something,
Okay.
a small object like we had already, another incredible object from your culture. Something like a fur tail or something Scottish.
Whiskey. Whiskey. Okay.
Yeah, well.
I'm not feeling good.
This is why we have big glasses and small amounts of whiskey.
Yeah.
Because it comes from the earth, you
Who
know.
are you?
I am Don McLachlan.
Hello, Don. My name is Henrietta. I'm from Germany.
Okay, you are from, wow, you came a long way
Yeah.
up to the Scottish Highlands.
Oh, yes. And I have something to say.
Yes, please.
We've got a relatively sexy document.
I know that Germans like documents.
Yes. We got it. And I want to share it with you. It's here.
Wow, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a German one.
And it's analog. So, the title.
Yeah.
Mm.
Please read it.
The title is Systematic and Bottom-Up Approaches.
Of course.
That's a good start for a German document.
Yes.
Systematic and bottom-up approaches. That's what we need in Scotland too.
Yeah, and
We
I
need-
want to give you this document to do something with it.
Maybe I can like revolutionize the way we brew whiskey up here with a bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
That's
a good
actually
idea.
what we do all the time because the grass grows on the bottom. So we cut it and then we put it up, fill it in bottles. That's the bottom-up approach.
That's very philosophical.
It
I
is
like
really
Scottish
philosophical.
people.
You know
Yes.
what? One thing what you might learn from us Scottish people. I mean, if I may say so. The copper consumption in the US has increased by importing electrical motors from South Korea. It's a typical Scottish title for a document.
Aha.
We go really into the concrete, we don't go blah blah.
Good. So let's drink.
Let's drink. A last one.
A last one.
Because,
So,
take this one.
A toast.
A toast?
A toast.
To all.
Carbon 27% over 30 years.
Up this.
Freeze. Freeze. Okay.
This man has a hidden thought. Which thought? What kind of, what is he thinking?
But not saying.
But not saying, yes. He's hiding something. He wants to go home. And where is he? Where is he? In which country? In Kenya.
And he wants to go home. Everybody loves Africa.
Everybody.
Nobody ever wants to leave this beautiful continent.
No one. No one. No one. Do you know what? I come back from Berlin, and they said something very special to me.
In Berlin?
Yeah, in a congress.
Oh.
And they said, since, I don't know it exactly.
I think it's a long title.
Yeah, I tattooed it here. You can read it.
Since I am not necessarily a loud shouter, the rest is unreadable.
Okay. What does that mean?
I think that means that they want to say they are quite sensitive persons. They don't want to shout out loud their missions.
Okay.
They just go there and just say what they have to say.
Yeah,
Look at my big Kenyan spear that I have in my right hand.
Oh, great. Yeah, I know.
This is what we say. A man needs a spear, and on the spear should be written what he believes in.
I can read it. Doing something is not only to say we need more research. Oh,
that's
very,
what I say.
Okay, that seems to be very modern.
It's a research spear.
Okay.
You go straight into the things.
Okay. And one last one. What we need is another century again. Another century, perhaps a century in the future.
Oh.
What? 25th century.
Okay.
25th century.
Good morning, Mr. B. Do you want some coffee?
Could you activate my right arm?
Yes, but you have to say the code words.
The code word is very simple. I agree entirely on what we are saying here.
Some things never change.
Even in the 25th century. Basic things stay basic things. People need arms to do things. That's why I ask you, please activate it.
I activated. Beep.
That's the left one.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the wrong code word. Here I have the right code word. Would you agree to bring the results to the public?
Yes, that's the right code word. I want a little baby robot.
No problem.
Let's do it.
But you have to activate something else. God. Don't go into details. Those two. Let's do a last one.
A new one, or it's
I'll do another scene.
Okay.
I got a bit ashamed. I'm sorry. So let's give a last phrase. We had a lot of phrases, but I want to have a live phrase. This scene starts with a live phrase. You can give me something very simple, something from your country that you say when you say hi, or some longer sentence. Think about it. Nobody will ever see what you're saying here. It stays in the room. Say it.
Once again, please.
Grass and grazing turned into certification.
Grass and grazing can reverse desertification.
Rust and graze. Grass and grazing can reverse desertification. I understood it.
Grass and graze can reverse
desertification.
Desertification. Yeah. Did you understand that?
Yes, I understand everything. But this is not solving our problem.
Why?
Because I told you there's gonna be lunch.
Okay, and
you didn't cook.
Yes.
Yes. You're writing, but not cooking. I'm hungry.
I know. If I'm looking on the soil, I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's all based on personal relationships. You know?
Yes, I know. On personal relationships between you and your garden.
Yes.
You have to do something to give me something to eat.
That's good for the diversification.
Desertification.
Desertification. Desertification.
No water at all.
Do you understand what you are saying?
Sometimes.
Because I don't understand.
Sometimes. It's written in the Bible, in the first capital.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Could you say something about security insurance?
Yeah, no, I think this is the wrong book. This was not the Bible. This was the German big
German
document,
Scottish
you know,
document.
this document. Honey?
Yes.
Why not mentioning that it's really aesthetic?
What?
This one.
I'm growing in his garden.
The flower, this flower, is so aesthetic. I like it.
I like it too.
And it can speak.
What?
Yes, I heard yesterday. It said, what works well, what doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it's very intelligent.
Yeah. It's trying to say another thing.
Oh, nobody is right.
I told you, it's so intelligent.
I grow, although there is desertification. So I just believe things could happen.
Wow.
And it knows words that I don't know.
Yeah, I told you it's intelligent.
Incredible. Could you say something more to me?
I could. Give me some water.
Yes.
Please, I want to ask you something.
It is depending on the product.
Yes, but do you think that we can solve all the problems of the world?
Well, no scientist knows better what to do than a farmer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha.